on the book of Job. And you think you got problems? Yeah, we all do. We all have problems. No matter how close to the Lord you live or how far from Him you live, we all have problems. And we're seeing Job's problems. And this whole study is given to us by God to be of an encouragement and have insight on what is going on behind the scenes that we often don't even begin to know. But we all have problems. And most of our problems are small. They're not real big things, but they're big to us. Not like Job, losing everything. Lose all your wealth. He was the richest man in the East in that day. Yeah. Lose all your children. Wow, 10 children gone, just like that. And lose your servants. And then lose your own health. You're alive, that's all you can say. Where's God at in all this? Job never went down that pathway. But what we are looking at and start looking at here in the 3rd chapter was Job, after being silent for so many days and saying nothing, and the 3 friends that came, they said nothing. They just sat and realized what they saw manifested in the way that Job felt and acted. But nobody said anything. Then Job speaks. He's the first one who speaks. And that's what we're looking at right now. And he's telling how bad it is, how he's feeling. Everything is so bad that he wishes that he had never been born. He wishes that he had never been conceived. He wished that if he had been conceived, that he had died in the womb or died immediately after birth. And then he rationalizes it and says, therefore, I would be at peace. He's hurting. When things don't go the way we expect them to go, it is very easy to feel alone in that situation and feel hopeless at times. And you wish that it could be better. Or you wish that something would happen to take it all away. Or you're wondering, why does God allow this to happen? Well, we know that the devil was involved in this. And the devil had approached God and said, Job worships you. He loves you because you blessed him. You blessed him with family. You blessed him with wealth. You blessed him with good health. You blessed him materially in every way. Take all that stuff away, and he's going to curse you. And that's one of the reasons why the devil was referred to as one of the accusers of the brethren, because that's what he does. And who knows, we who believe may have been on that list of the devils in which he approached the Lord and said, so-and-so, if you do this or do that, they're going to reject you, turn from you, so on. But the devil never wins. We suffer, but the devil still doesn't win. But our suffering can result in our growth in spiritual ways. You know, oak trees are among the strongest trees that are in our region. They're very strong. Heavy winds come and they go with the flow. Occasionally they uproot, occasionally they break, but usually they endure when other trees don't. But those oak trees, in part, are as strong as they are because they've experienced so much stress. And that has caused them to grow in such a way as to utilize that stress that they were experiencing to make them stronger. And that's the same way with we. We who believe and follow the Lord Jesus Christ can be made stronger by the problems that we face and overcome. Or we can throw up our hands and say, God don't love me no more. I'm not going to worship him anymore. I'm done. I'm out of here. Any number of people will do that. But what this really does is bring you to a point to show that you are vulnerable. And we all need to know that, because then we can deal with our vulnerabilities directly with God and become stronger in overcoming. As we look at this, and we'll pick up here at verse 5, notice what he continues to say. It started here in verse 1 when he first spoke, and he's listing all these things he wishes dead. Well, when you look at everything that happened to him, you could easily understand why he would feel that way. But do we have to feel that way? Becomes the issue. Well, he says, let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Stain what? The it. What is the it? The it here is his birthday and the day that he was conceived, because he's approaching it from either angle. If he had never been conceived, he would have never been born. He would have never gone through any of this suffering that we've seen so far. And then, being conceived, if he dies in the womb, stillborn, hey, no pain, no suffering. And even if he is born and dies the same day that he was born, his pain would be next to nothing and suffering next to nothing compared to what he's going through. It hurts. And we certainly want to avoid those things. But when we go through these hard times are going to make us stronger in the long run. God will never give anything to his children that will destroy them. He will take them up to a certain point in which he knows that his grace will enable them to endure that situation. Job lost almost everything. He still had a wife, but hey, she wasn't much of a support or an encouragement. She was struggling with the situation too in her own way. They were her children that were taken, as well as they were his children that were taken. Things of that nature. But when you follow the conversation that the devil had with Jesus, and then Jesus turns around and puts limits on him. And the last one that he was nailed with was his health. Take away his health, and he's going to curse you. And so God said you can take away his health, but you can't take his life. And God knows where to put the brakes on. And so, again, to learn confidence. So, let darkness and the shadow of death stain it, the day of his birth, or the day of his conception. He applied it to both of them. whichever one. He is simply saying, I won't be suffering if I never had been conceived. I won't be suffering if I'd never been born. I wish I was dead. Okay? Let a cloud, he continues to say, dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. He's talking about looking at the birthday for the illustration here. His birthday. That's an important day. That was the day he was born on. If you didn't have a birthday, you're not here. You were never born. The birthday. He wants God to take away that day. Now, wait a minute. There are other people who was born on that day, and they don't want that day to be taken away. But this is the way Job is looking at it. He's looking at it strictly from his point of view. I don't want to have been born. And so let my birthday be shrouded in darkness. Take all the light away. Because that's how miserable I'm feeling. He describes his pain in the illustration of darkness, blackness. He's describing it that way so that people can get the understanding, his three friends, supposedly friends, his three friends, that they will understand how he is feeling. And they can say, oh, I see why you're feeling this way. Yeah, so much so that it terrifies the day. He's saying the blackness. In the culture of that day and time, because they had very little artificial light, candles, some things were flammable, that would create light, and things of that nature. But as far as daylight is concerned, they didn't have much of that. So take away this. So there's no daylight. No light at all. Everything is total darkness. The stars in the sky, let them go black. So there's no light coming from the outer space. Nothing like this. Yeah. Verse 6. As for that night, the night of his conception or the day of his birth, let darkness seize upon it. Let it not be joined unto the days of the year. No 360 days or 365 days. Take one of those days away. That's to describe how he feels. I am hurting so bad, I don't wish to live. I wish to die. He did not blame God for his problems. That kept him out of trouble with God. By God's grace, he endured. But it's painful. We need to take pain seriously. When somebody says they're hurting, find out why they're hurting. And maybe you can be of an encouragement to them. Job did that, and we'll see what happened when that came to pass. Yeah, verse 6. As for the night, let the darkness seize upon it. Let it not be joined unto the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Away with it. Now God can do anything. But there are certain things God is not going to do. He doesn't do things that are irrational and illogical. Which this would be because, hey, there's only so many days in the years you can be born in, right? And then people are being born and conceived all the time. All the time it's going on. So there's a lot of people that are going to be affected about this day that he wants taken away. But what he's really asking is this, that he just simply would have died at birth or had never been conceived. Therefore, he would never have a birthday. He would never have a birthday. All right? Verse 7. Lo, let the night be solitary, meaning standing totally alone in absolute darkness, no stars, no moon, nothing. Let no joyful voice come unto therein. Let's all be really sad about all this. Again, he's painting a picture of his pain. He's painting the picture of his pain. Verse 8. Let them curse it, the day, and curse the day. Let them curse it, the day, who are ready to rise up their mourning. Let others join in their sorrow to curse the day along with Job. Yeah, misery loves company, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. People can get together and complain to each other about their problems. And they'll feel better after they've complained about them for a while. All right. He continues on in verse 9. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let those stars go out to provide that light. Let it look for light and not find it is the implication. But have none, neither let it see the dawning of that day. So now he's illustrating it even further. Let the day, the birthday, or the day I was conceived, either one, let it be as if it was never a day at all. I could not have been conceived if that day never actually existed. Neither would anybody else be conceived or born on that day if that day did not exist. So that's what he's doing. He's saying, this is how bad it is with me. This is how bad I'm hurting. Yeah. Verse 10, because it shut not up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hid sorrow from mine eyes. He's simply saying, let all this take place, because the easiest way for this to have been avoided was, I would have never been conceived in the first place. If God had just simply not let me be conceived, which would have been easy to do, which would have been, he could do that anytime with anyone, and probably has on any number of occasions. And you see that there's different times that people want a family, but they can't have a family. They're trying, but they can't. And then, maybe after years of trying, and they just kind of give up on it, maybe adopt a child or two, and all of a sudden, they're going to have a child. One or two or more. Yeah, it's amazing. Just simply amazing. But he says, I wouldn't have been. I would not have been. Verse 11, why died I not from the womb? Why? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? Why? God, you could have done either one of those. Why didn't you do that? Verse 12, why did the knees prevent me, or why the breast that I should suck? Well, here's an interesting thing. Well, let's take the first phrase here. Why did the knees prevent me? It was a common practice in that day and time for a newborn to, the mother would bring her legs up so that she could set the newborn to lay against it. They bent at the knee to prop up the newborn. And she would hold the newborn. And then it's easy for her to move the newborn to either one of her breasts for feeding. Wow. And then put him back. And she is in a restful state while she's doing all this. So that's what that has reference to. Yeah. Why did that even happen to me? Why was I nursed by my mother? Either one of those, take them away, then I wouldn't have been. It's all part of this whole birthing process. He didn't want to be born. Verse 13. For now should I have lain still and been quiet. He's saying, put all this stuff together that I've been asking and talking about, to put it together, then I'm going to be still and quiet. What he's simply saying is, I would be dead then. Death is silent. All right? I should have slept. Then had I been at rest. Yeah, let this happen. Then I would have been at rest. I would not be suffering now. I had not known any of this. I would have not experienced any of this. I'd had no family, had no money. I wouldn't have had anything in this life, in this world. I would have been at peace. And that's what he is hungering for and desiring. Now he compares, verse 14, with kings and counselors of the earth, which build desolate places for themselves. He's talking about the kings and the counselors and all the people of wealth and power, such as Job was, building mausoleums. So that when they died, they would be placed in this mausoleum. They're gone. They know no more pain, no more problems, no more troubles in this life. They're dead. And he said, that should be like me. I should be dead like that. And you'd say, well, he's a man of God. How can he feel this way? How can he talk this way? All this is to show that we as Christians can go through some very difficult times and feel the same way when we're going through these seemingly impossible situations that God permits in our lives. What are we going to do? How am I going to function? I don't want to live. I want to die. And these are things that we see happen so often today. And we're seeing more and more of this happening with children even. But that's a whole other ball game of how that happens and got that away. It is because of the breakdown of the family, for example. Okay, he says that he desolate, like the places for themselves. You know, you can go into a cemetery anytime, day or night. And some cemetery has private mausoleums, 1 or 2 bodies in them. Some have big mausoleums that hold maybe 100 or more bodies. And others are just built or just buried in the ground, and a headstone is placed there. But you can go into a cemetery. It's quiet. Death reigns there. Death reigns there. It's quiet. And that's what he's picturing himself as. I'll be comfortable if I was dead. Well, verse 15, or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Apparently, Job never filled his house with gold and silver, but he knew of those who did have structures of gold and silver in those structures that they lived in that particular region of the world that he was living in at the time. And again, does this keep them from having problems? No. Does it take away their pain? No. But they die just as desolate. Just as desolate. Oh my. All this. Verse 16. Or as a hidden, untimely birth, I had not been, as infants, which never saw light. He's saying, this is the better route for me. Just like all these other things that we've been looking at on the last few slides here, it has caused pain. If I could get rid of the pain by not having been born, not having to experience anything like this, then I'm going to feel good again. That is the way that he is thinking. Yeah. He goes on, 16. Or as hidden untimely birth, I had not been as infants which never saw light. There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary be at rest. Yeah. This last phrase is interesting because this very last phrase here, he's talking about, I'll be in heaven. I'll be in heaven. And heaven is a place that doesn't have any pain, doesn't have any suffering at all whatsoever. It's gone. And that's one of the neat things, is in the funeral that we had today. This gentleman, strong Christian, but he was suffering a lot physically over the last several years. But he's no longer suffering. He's no longer in pain. He doesn't have to deal with the criticisms of things in the world and that go along with people criticizing you for this and troubling you for that and so on and so forth. Don't have to have any of that. He is looking at this from the standpoint of being free. Verse 18. There, he's talking about heaven, the prisoners rest together. Now he calls them prisoners. Now people in heaven are not prisoners because they've committed crimes, but they're there in heaven being kept safe from all the evil that's going on outside. In that sense, they're called prisoners. There's also another factor that enters into this too. The scripture tells us that when Jesus died on the cross, at his death, he went to a place that is called Abraham's bosom, or paradise. And this is a part of a place that the righteous went to this place, paradise, or Abraham's bosom, before Jesus died on the cross because he hadn't paid for their sins yet. And they couldn't go to heaven until he paid for their sins. And so when he died on the cross, he went to this place, gave them the good news of the gospel that their sin debt had been paid for by himself, and now he's going to take them out of paradise, a place of comfort and rest, and no troubles or problems to deal with, and take them to heaven. And so that place is empty today and will never be filled again by those who are Christians, because we go immediately into the presence of the Lord. But in those days, Jesus hadn't died yet. So this is what he's referring to them as prisoners, because he led, as Peter writes about it in the New Testament, that Jesus led captivity captive. He took those who were held in their place of comfort, rest, relaxation, called paradise or Abraham's bosom, same term for the same place, different term for the same place, and took them to heaven. He captured them there and took them to heaven. And in that sense, as a prisoner, where they go to be there. And there no oppression there. And that's what he's saying. Hey, I would like to go there. I'd like God to take me there now. Let me die, and I'll go to this place where the prisoners go. I'll wait there. Because they knew, and that's why they called it paradise. That's why they called it Abraham's bosom. It is a place of comfort and relaxation that righteous people, godly people who died before Jesus died on the cross went there to wait so that their sin debt would be paid by Jesus